What's up, YouTube? Mr. LMSC here, and this is going to be a tier list for your League starter build. What character should you make when starting this game, playing through it all? There's so many options, so much confusion of how you should build this and what's actually good early, what's not good, all of that stuff. So let's dive into it. I'm going to be ranking all the builds up until Thorns, as everything past it is either PvP or something that I just wouldn't rank really in a build here. So starting with the Smiter, I'm actually going to put a Smiter up in the A tier. One, it's actually not bad PVM. It's pretty solid. You're always hitting, so you don't have to worry about attack rating, which is fantastic. But you can also get in on doing bosses, doing Ubers, things like that. I think it definitely ends up in the A tier. Some people would be like, oh, S tier, but there's not going to be a ton of Ubers happening super early on. I think this is a fine starter build that's a lot of fun. And if you do go through, you can be useful for helping people with Ubers, and people will probably pay you in, runes or whatever to come kill their Ubers for them or something. So for that reason, I think it can go right there. Concentrate Barb, I'm going to put in the C tier. I'm going to move him to the D tier. Barbarians are just going to be super weak early on, and this is just going to be pretty slow. You're not going to add a lot of value, and it's going to be, it's not really until you get like a lot of damage that you can start to do stuff. Berserk Barb, I'm also going to put in the D tier, simply because it's the same sort of idea. Some people... this is an S tier build, right? Berserk Barb is the strongest Magic Find build in the game, but it requires Enigma. It requires a lot of that good gear, and for starting out, it's just not going to be very strong. This is one that you build something else and then you respec into it once you're solid. So S tier build, but D tier for the starting character. Summon Druid. Man, I almost want to kind of put it in like the C tier almost. It's not like the worst thing ever. You know what? I'm going to put it in the C tier. Summon Druid is not extremely strong. It's a pretty weak build overall. But, actually I'm going to move it to the B tier. Low B. But, why is it good? A lot of you are losing your minds right now. Why is it good? Number one, you're maxing Oak Sage. You know how many people are going to love having you in the game running around with a max Oak Sage? Everybody. Okay? Number two, if you're playing as a bear, which when I play the Summon Druid, I like to get Werebear, you can then get Shockwave, which is one of the most OP stuns in the game. So this isn't a build for solo. If you're solo playing, don't pick this build. You could, but that's like D tier. But if you're playing with people, you are the best support ever. I think low B is totally fine, and you will be welcome in all sorts of games, and you'll help out parties a lot. So this is actually a decent party build. Totally think it goes B. I'm sure a lot of people will yell at me for it, but they haven't been playing through the game and having like a single werebear just standing there casting Shockwave and just destroying everything. Just stunning everything for like 10 seconds or whatever it is. All right, let's move on. Blade Sin. Probably goes down in that D tier. Again, same sort of thing. Not super strong. She'll actually be kind of okay very early, but then she's just gonna not be good after that. She requires a lot of gear as well. Overall, the build isn't that great anyways, but you're gonna want to have more into this. So overall, I'd say not your best one. Do we even need to explain why Hammer is S tier? It's just the most boring, straight up S tier there is. Kills everything, massive damage. It's magic damage, so it's not immune by anything except a couple things. And it just, The amount of damage that he has is so good. Blizzard Sorceress, going to go right up there as well. Another S tier. This is just going to be high damage, AoE, cold damage. And once again, the big thing is the actual league start. You have to really consider gear a lot, right? And that's why when looking at these two, Hammerdin, you can do these naked. And you still murder everything. Like, the skill points give so much damage to hammers, to Blizzard. You need very little gear to make this extremely strong. So it goes up there on the S tier. Bone Necro. If you're playing, I think it goes in the S tier as well. It's either very top of A tier or S tier for me. If you're playing solo, this is an S tier. If you're playing team, this is an A tier. That's how I would say it. He's still good, though, even in team, because you can still help out. You can still do a lot. And you can still get curses for your team and all of that stuff. So it's still very nice. I like him right here overall because this is kind of a solo and team. His damage is a little low, but it is magic damage. So once again, not going to be resisted by a lot. And your safety is so high. You can just bone prison the world and then you're fine. In a team, though, it makes it a little bit worse. Corpse Explosion's not quite as good, all that stuff. And you can kind of lock everyone in with your prisons. So it can kind of make it less fun for a team. But a fantastic solo character. Double Throw, I'm just going to throw into the F tier. I'm not sure. I mean, is it better than Blade Fury? I mean, the thing is, you're just having to constantly repair, and I like it in the F. It's very rough. So every time you throw out of weapons, you have to go back and repair your weapons, and you're not even like starting out. You're not going to find War Strikes and Lacerators and things that are good and things that have replenished quantity. So because of that, you're just going to be throwing these garbage javelins or whatever you find somewhere, and it's just going to be miserable until you start getting some gear. This is going to be a painful starter. I think it goes in the F tier right here. Kixin, where would I put Kixin? You know, probably in the C tier for Kixin. The reason is because Kixin also utilizes traps. And so you get a little bit of that like help and damage. And the assassin overall is so strong. She has really good, crowd control and stuff. And it's fun. You need to find some good boots. But if you find some just like boots, you find a pair of gores maybe. Like, it doesn't take a lot to get the Kixin kind of going in an okay way. It's not a great starter, but like I say, you will skill traps as well while you're skilling it, because once you max out your like Dragon Talon, it's like, now what do I do? So yeah, just find boots with defer and then get some traps going, and you're pretty good. Enchantress, I'm gonna throw in C tier low. Purely for team. Solo, F tier. Probably. But once again, if you're playing with a party that has some people that are hitting, you've got, some barb, a zealot, some things like that. Enchantress is actually really good. Not only does it add some damage, but the attack rating boost is really helpful. It's not the worst character for leveling. I think it's a low C, but there is value that you can bring over these things down below. I think C tier is totally fine. Exploding Arrow. I'm going to use this as a fire cold symbol. So this is going to be fire and cold, and I think that goes right in the B tier. It's not one of the top builds, but it's very good still. Like, Exploding Arrow is great running through normal, and some of Nightmare. Freezing Arrow is great getting all the way through Nightmare, and then in Hell you can do stuff. Additionally, you don't need a lot of top gear to do it. Very cheap and easy. The mana usage is a little bit, but overall, I think it's a totally fine one, and it's a great solo starter build. I would almost say like a low A starter. I think high B is totally fine there. We'll use this for Physical Zealot, and I would say a Physical Zealot is A or B. A or B. You get Fanaticism, which is helpful. I think B. I think it's a B build. You're not quite bringing enough overall. It's going to be a little bit slower, but you're going to be able to get through the game. It's strong. It's decent. But, for physical, your gear requirements usually go a little bit up, right? Fire Sorceress, I'm going to throw into the A rank. It's not quite as good. It's still a great character, but you run into a lot of fire immunes when you get to Hell. And so it's decent for adding that fire damage to like your team and stuff. It's a very powerful early starter, but if you're going to continue with fire late into the game, it's going to be worse. We've got the Meteor for Meteorb Source. So I'll actually put Meteorb Source at the top of the A tier. This is going to be better for solo, but not as good for a team. Very strong, though. Another very strong build here. Fire Claw Druid. So you have Fissure. You have Shockwave. I'm going to put it on C because of those two things. You can run with Fissure, so you can help out somewhat there, and then you can run with Shockwave later to help out the team that way. Your Fire Claw is not really going to do a lot early on itself, but for the other skills that you get, I think a C is totally fine. A Fire Druid, I'm going to put in the similar realm as this. Same sort of idea. It's very, very strong early on. If you want to continue fire all the way through Hell, I think it's still A tier. Teams will appreciate it, but you will run into a lot of fire immunes in Hell. It's not going to be as good. This is focusing that all the way through. This Freezing Arrow I'm going to use for just a Frost Maiden completely, and I think this can go probably lower B. I think the mix fire and cold is going to be better actually than this right here. It's still a decent build. You'll still do well, but it does run into a couple of difficulties and whatnot. But freeze is very useful and teams will appreciate you. So it's still right in that B, decent league starter. Frenzy Barb, I'm going to put it in the C tier. Of the Barb builds, it's the strongest one, I would say, for starting, unless you're just singing and shouting and helping. But you're still going to rely on getting some weapons to actually really start contributing and doing a lot. And even if you're playing by yourself, I mean, the Barb builds overall are just a little iffy. Frozen Orb Source, I'm going to put right here. Just not as strong as Blizzard. Same sort of idea, but still very good. A lot of source builds you're going to see in the A tiers right there. Fury Druid is probably down in the D tier. I mean, it's just like slightly worse Frenzy, I feel like. Or Zeal or whatever. It requires a decent amount of gear to be decent. You could argue it's low C. We can put it there. Holy Freeze Zealot. I'm going to say goes in the B tier at the back end. Because providing Holy Freeze is actually really useful to a team. So that'll actually be really nice. And then you can do some okay damage. I like it. A Tesladin is going to go in the D tier because this just requires gear. You need to get dreams and stuff before this really helps. I actually think that can move up some. Lightning Sorceress, I think, is a low B tier early on. You just need more gear for Lightning to really come out and do a lot. It's just not quite as strong as the other Sorceresses. Fire and Cold are going to be better for starting out. And then Lightning, once you get Griffins and things like that, then Lightning really picks up. Trapsin is going to go in the A tier. This is from start to finish amazing. Just you get, or the S tier, excuse me. You get the damage, you get the corpse explosion, you get the crowd control. Like, I mean, and it's so good. And it's light damage, which is the easiest to break resistances on, so it can kill the most. It's very, very, very strong league starter solo and with teammates, and also because they fixed the Magic Find bug for her, now she can actually go Magic Find later, which makes her so much better. Physical Boson. It's not good early on at all. It's not going to be great in a team. I'm going to put it at the top of the D tier. Bad early, bad late. Yeah, it's okay if you get some good gear on it, but it takes a while. Phoenix Strike Assassin, I'm going to put it in the C tier. It's okay. It's an all right build. You get a little bit of stuff. You might... I'm going to work it down to the bottom of C the more I think about it. It's still an assassin, and because of that, I'm going to put it in the C tier because there's still some skills you'll get that'll be helpful. Yeah, the damage is garbage, but I think the utility is going to be potentially okay. And you'll still get Death Sentry and, yeah, some things like that. Not bad. Poison Necro, I think, can go high C, low B. I'm going to put him in B because you're going to get lower resist, and that's going to be very helpful for your team, and your teammates will like that. So because of that, I'm going to put it in the B. It's also possible. Now, this is an S tier build when you get Death Web and some really good gear, but early on, it's okay. It does okay damage, but you really help out with the team. Summon Necro goes right up into the S tier. That's a pretty standard one. You get massive bodies everywhere in front, whether it's you or with a teammate. People will love having the guy that has the summons out front to kind of protect them all. Very nice. Wind Druid. Do we want top of A or low S? I think it's more of an A. I think both are. It's the best A for sure here. You don't have Enigma yet and stuff. The tornadoes are a little all over, but it's very strong still. You still have Hurricane. You still have Sage if you want a little later. It's still very good. I think A is a great place. Venge Pally. You're running Conviction, so for that purpose, I'm going to put it in the C tier. Maybe, yeah, we'll go a high C. Because you get to run Conviction. People are going to love that. Summon Necro's S without it. Well, once again, we're going from left to right. So this is higher than Orb, Yeah. Conviction to help the team out is the purpose of this. Also, when you're playing through, once again, you can kill technically everything, and it's an okay starter. It's not the worst thing. This is going to be the Whirlwind Sin. You can't really make that, so that'll just go F tier, because good luck getting a Chaos at the very start. This Shout Barb is difficult because it's S tier if you're in a team. Solo, it's not great. But if you're in a team, it's S tier. Otherwise, like, C tier. Because shouting is still okay. Like if you're a singer. So, we'll put it up. We'll put it in the A as a compromise. Whirlwind Barb is just going to be in the F tier. Just complete trash. I hate Whirlwind without gear. It's so bad. So bad, you guys. Don't start with it. You will hate your life, I promise. I promise. Anybody who's like, it's a decent A or B. No. Have you played a Whirlwind Barb without gear? Don't start it. You'll copium, man. Lightning Fury is going to go up into the S tier. Solo, you can murder. You do so much damage with Lightning Fury. It's insane. If you're with a team, you will massacre stuff. If you are by yourself, you can avoid certain areas, and then you will still massacre stuff. This is an Amazon. And yeah, that pretty much covers all the builds there. I mean, if you want, you could do like Nova Sorceress is probably somewhere in the C tiers. It's gonna fall off good early. Firewall is, honestly probably B tier. I don't think any of these other ones really make sense. Rabies Druid. High C. Really kind of more of a solo. Firewall actually has great damage. It's insane. Holy Fire is just like for starting, and then you're not doing anything with it. So I don't really want to rank any of the rest of these. Some of them are just like normal builds, and then you're breaking out of them. So yeah, I would, if I have to shuffle these around some, probably like this. I feel pretty solid on this list. So for people who are saying, what's an amazing 8-man group that we could start with? I mean, you can literally just go Hammerdin, Trap Assassin, Lightning Fury's on, Summon Necro, Blizz Source, Wind Druid, Shout Barb, Bone Necro, Meteor, like boom, you've got 8 characters that are amazing right there. Like, it's so easy to just snag that. I would say grabbing maybe a Venge Pally or a Poison Nova Necro for lower res or conviction would be nice, unless you want another Paladin to just do it. But, like, yeah, you could also just run 8 Hammerdins. And honestly, you'd crush the game. It would be amazing. So, yeah, overall, this is my tier list for build starters right here. I think it's pretty good. I think this is a pretty good show of league starting and how it goes. And I don't think builds are too good. I am taking note of specific pieces of different builds and ranking them on that. So, you know, the Venge Paladin is mediocre, maybe a D tier overall there, but with conviction and what he can provide, it kind of moves him up a little bit, and he's still okay. But you're not trying to magic find with the Smiter, right? Not every single one of these is exactly like the perfect magic finding character, right? To start the league with. They each kind of have their own separate pieces. So once again, it just depends, what do you want to do starting the game? And then this can kind of help guide you from there. Anyways, I'd love to hear you guys' feedback down below. I'm sure you guys would rank some things in different places, but regardless, peace, YouTube.